What's up, everybody? It's Justin. Let's dive in. Question number one. I was looking on the 5x5 website for proper squat form and was surprised to find that they recommend going below parallel. I've always been told to go down until your knees are 90 degrees and quads are parallel to the ground. So, in your opinion, are your hips supposed to drop lower than your knees, or do you recommend going till parallel? Great question, and you definitely want to break parallel. Anytime you're doing a squat, you want your hip joint to go below your knee joint. That said, this ass to grass stuff is not really necessary for most people unless they're trying to do something in particular, like somebody who may be doing Olympic powerlifting, like competitively, where they need to come out of what they call the hole, right? When they do like a snatch or a clean and jerk or something like that, right? But for most people who are just trying to squat for overall health and wellness, you just need that hip joint to break parallel. Your hip joint will go below your knee joint. So this, let's say this point here is your knees, this is your hips, my wrist is your hips. Just gotta go below parallel, then come back up. That's it. Hip joint has to break the plane of the knee joint. That's definitely what you wanna do. Here's the problem. The bodybuilding world doesn't tell you this. So if you go into any Globo gym and you see people, even on like Smith machines doing squats, people just don't break parallel, and people probably don't have the mobility to break parallel without risking injury. So the bodybuilding world, as a personal trainer, is gonna give you a plan and say, 4 sets of 10 on squats, you need to do it, go, right? And they don't really care what happens. This is why you see some of these big jacked up bodybuilder guys that'll have 4 plates on each side of the bar and they barely go down to 45 degrees. Their knees are barely bent, and then they come back up and they're like, I can squat 300 pounds. And you're like, you couldn't break parallel with that weight with a gun to your head. Let's be honest about this, right? So what I want you to understand is, if you can't right now stand with your feet hip width or shoulder width apart, somewhere in between hip width and shoulder width apart, squat straight down, literally ass to grass because you're just body weight, and hang out there in a rested position. Like, you may have seen videos, people all across the world rest like this. This is a resting position for most of the world. For indigenous tribes, when I was in Thailand, people will squat like that in the street and eat food. Literally, they just sit in a squatted position and rest. Americans do not do this because we do not have the mobility to do it, because we sit all the time and have killed our glutes, right? So if you can't do this, you shouldn't be barbell squatting yet. You should start with body weight, and you should be working on mobility. So some great resources for this. Kelly Starrett's book, Becoming a Supple Leopard, is fantastic. I recommend following the pistol squat recommendations so you can really get down deep and work on your ankle mobility. GMB also has a program called Focus Flexibility, which I've done, which is fantastic as well. The other option is to skip barbell squats altogether and just focus on mobility, but still work your glutes. Because here's what happens. If you do that bodybuilding type stuff, 45-degree squats, you're not even working your butt. Women come to me all the time and they're like, I've been doing squats for 6 months, my butt won't get bigger. Yeah, because you're not breaking parallel. You're going down 45 degrees. You're not engaging your glutes. If you can't figure out how to get that squat form perfect, you're not even going to engage your butt muscles. So ladies, if you're trying to get a squat booty and you're doing squats and you don't have proper form, all you're going to do is work your quads are going to get bigger, and you're going to hurt your lower back. So a better option for you would be something like a kettlebell goblet squat. That's where you hold a kettlebell in front of you and do a goblet squat. I have a video of this, and that is a great exercise to both engage the glutes and to work on your mobility at the same time. If you get down in that goblet squat and really work around your hips, your ankle joints, all these things, move around with that kettlebell, you can really work the ankle mobility, the hip mobility, your knees, all these things that will get you to a proper squat eventually. So to answer the question, you absolutely have to break parallel when you're doing a barbell squat. Just my opinion. I don't think you're squatting if you're not breaking parallel. So just my take on it.